A new look for the Bills, a new home for the Sabres, and getting your car fixed at Sears. All that made news this very week in decades past. Dave McKinley recalls when those stories and more were all news to you.
10 years ago this week was when a Wellsville man named Paul Saglia, who had filed a lawsuit claiming half ownership of Facebook, which he said he helped Mark Zuckerberg create while at Harvard, was himself brought before a judge for allegedly forging documents to help him make his case.
This is an outrage.
But while on house arrest, he fled. Last known to be in Ecuador, he remains a fugitive who's yet to stand trial for the crimes he was charged with. Meanwhile, an Obama administration program forcing schools to feed students food which was healthier for them wasn't going down well with the kids.
Like this cooked squash and like the lentils and the cooked spinach and broccoli.
All of which was more costly for taxpayers to supply, and more of which was ending up in the trash than in stomachs, and which forced menu modifications in the time since this week in 2012. 20 years ago this week, sporting new uniforms and having a competent man under center, the Bills by midway through the season had already won more games than they had the previous year. And when the Patriots came to play, a lot of their fans still held a soft spot in their hearts for Drew Bledsoe. Now, over the years, we've heard a lot of crazy things at the stadium, but this one from a Pats fan who no doubt forgot to pack his crystal ball for the tailgate may have just taken the lobster roll.
Can we have him back, please? Do you guys mind? We'll throw out a couple draft picks. We'll even give you Tom Brady.
That same week, Buffalo's finest were crestfallen over the loss of one of their own. Officer James Shields, while in pursuit of suspected robbers from a holdup, which turned out to have been staged by store clerks, was killed when he crashed his cruiser into a tree on Delaware Avenue near Bryant, a tree which, some 2 decades later, there exists a memorial to his end of watch a few feet above, where it still bears the scars of the tragedy that occurred there this week in 2002. 30 years ago this week.
The Buffalo Sabres ownership gathered the press, politicians, and business leaders in their current home to introduce their plan to pay for and build a new home for their hockey team. They're calling it the Crossroads.
It is needed.
But while that downtown venue was just getting on the drawing boards, another less than a half-mile away stood about half complete. This week's News to You pop quiz, do you know what this is, as it appeared while under construction this week in 1992? It was the same week the FDA first approved the injectable form of birth control known as Depo-Provera for use in the U.S., when we still sought out VHS tapes for the VCR. Ask your parents, kids. When you could still find an honest-to-goodness station wagon and get it fixed at any one of numerous Sears Auto Service Centers, none of which exist now, since the days when this was news to you.
And here's the answer to this week's News to You pop quiz. Dave asked you to name this downtown landmark as it appeared while under construction 30 years ago this week. It's the Burt Flickinger Center, built in 1993 and 1992 for the World University Games in Buffalo. Today, it is still an athletic facility for ECC with its Olympic-sized swimming pool, indoor track, and field house.